welcome to the adventure. This is episode 7, I think, of the tutorial on databases, and we've identified our attribute, and now we're going to be looking at primary keys and foreign keys. Okay, well, what are we talking about? Well, a primary key is one or more data attributes that uniquely identifies an entity. A key that consists of two or more attributes is called a composite key. And they're called keys, which really are just fields in records inside the database, because they unlock the data. That's why they're called keys. It's like you've got a box and you need a key to open that box. Keys are unique, that is, you expect a key to be unique to a particular lock. As far as you care anyway. You wouldn't like your door key, for example, to unlock someone else's door, or certainly you wouldn't want someone else's key in your street to unlock your door. A key that consists of two or more attributes is called a composite key because it's got two components. Now, the kind of component key that we'd be dealing with would be in sales, or rather in the invoice invented entity that you may remember from a previous tutorial. For example, a sale or an invoice will have a date, time, and a customer ID, and those components alone will identify that invoice from any other invoice, the date and time particularly. However, you can just give the invoice an invoice number and use that. But anyway, bear with as we go through this. All attributes that are part of a primary key must have a value in every record. It can't be left empty. And the combination of the values within these attributes must be unique in the table. So no null entries, which means, for example, for customer ID, you couldn't have a customer in the customer entity or customer table in the database where they didn't have an ID, it was blank. You can't rely upon it and then allow it not to be there. And null means not there. So you couldn't, in terms of a key for a lock for a door, you wouldn't expect to have a lock and lock the door but have no key. In fact, that situation may have occurred to you in the past and you've not found it very amusing. A missing key. So every primary key is going to be found in every record, and in databases they're called tuples. Every row of a table, they're going to be there. They're going to have a value. Even component or composite keys. It's quite common to have primary keys as integer values, like, for example, customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, and so on. You don't have to, but it's quite common in databases to do that because, well, it's easy. So if you add a record, that is, if you add another customer, you just say, well, the last customer's number was 99, so this is customer 100. You can even get the database to do it itself for you, and that's called auto-incrementing primary key. So if you want to find a customer, you look for that person's number. Okay, stop the recording now, I suggest, or pause it, and have a go at thinking what you'd do with primary keys here. And the abbreviation for primary key is PK. I'll do customers. There we have customers done. Simple as that. Pause here and have a go at the others. That is, see if you can anticipate what will happen. Now, sales is a different situation. We could just have a sales ID, but we're not going to, because this is a tutorial and we want to show what we could do alternatively. What we're going to do is say, well, right, products is really not products, but it's product ID, isn't it? Product ID. We're going to come back to what it's doing in this table when it really belongs to the other table in a moment, but just bear with me. That's product ID. So if that's product ID and there is a date, we could say, oh, that's a composite key. But remember what we did in a previous tutorial where we had linked tables. That is, we had tables that were entities that we created to get rid of the many-to-many relationships, make them one-to-many. So we really don't want a component. We want to look at the sales detail entity. So what we do just for the moment is say that we've got a sales ID here. That is, the sales ID will be in here as a primary key. Now the reason I've done it like this is because I wanted you to see already, before we even look at the link tables and the link attributes that are in them, that even in our sales entity here we have a product ID that is not in its own table. The product ID is a primary key in the products table, but it's sitting in the sales table. We find that happens with other keys too that are primary keys. When this happens, we say it's a foreign key because it's not in the place it belongs, and we can designate that with FK. So the foreign key is an entity in an entity, is the reference to the primary key of another entity. In the ERD, that attribute would be associated with FK. The foreign key of an entity can also be part of the primary key in a composite key. In that case, the attribute will be indicated with a PF, P for primary, for F for foreign, against its name. This is usually the case with link entities. And in the next tutorial, we're going to investigate link entities.